This is a Renew original recording. Hello and welcome to the Believe in People podcast. My name is Matthew Butler and I am your host, or as I like to say, your facilitator. Today I have with me Darren, and he shares his story on addiction and his journey to recovery. So firstly, can you please just introduce yourself for me?
My name is Darren Hilton. I'm 50 years old. I'm 2 years in recovery from drugs, addiction, and I've just got a job as a recovery champion at Change Grow Live. I came through the groups, like quite a long journey. I came through about 25 years of groups.
Do you know what? You've been in... So, how long? I'll tell you what, when was the age when you first started using substances?
About 9.
So you was 9 years old,
yeah.
And you're 50 years old now?
Yeah.
So that's a good 41 years of using substances, or thereabouts, give or take, obviously a couple of years recovery. What was the first substance that you decided to use?
Probably gas, probably butane, probably lighter gas.
What made you think, this is a good idea, I'm gonna use this?
I don't know whether, once I put the first thing inside of me, I don't think I had any control over it.
Okay. So what was that? What's that like then? Obviously, being at a young age, was there a culture thing? Because I remember when I was at school, all the kids was like, "Oh, if you sniff glue, you can get high." But it was Pritt sticks. There was no getting high with Pritt stick. Yeah. But I think because everyone else was doing it, I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to sniff this Pritt stick and see what it was." Was there something like that with the gas? Like, what sort of brought that on?
It was kind of like I'd say peer pressure, but I put myself in that situation. But it was a culture, I believe it was a culture, Other people did it, like bigger boys.
Yeah. Did you surround yourself with like older kids?
Yeah,
and stuff
at the time, just to feel part of it, feel better.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. So using gas at 9, what was the next substance that you started to use after that?
Well, it was gas and glue at the same time. So I'd say cannabis, roughly age of 10, 11.
That's incredible, really. That at that age. So what brought cannabis on? Was it similar sort of circumstances?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, it was similar circumstances. Yeah, just I'd seen people smoke it and have such a good laugh. Yeah, and it just was the done thing. Yeah. That's what people did. Yeah.
So what sort of year was this then that you started using cannabis?
It would have been 1980.
Okay. Yeah. What was the culture like for drug use around that sort of time?
Well, it wasn't really that big.
Was it not?
No. I was never in school.
Yeah. How come?
Because, I'll go forward a little bit. Yeah. I found out I've got ADHD at 49.
Okay.
And it wasn't recognised at school, and there was no, so I was put in a naughty class. Yeah. So I'd be naughty, a bit like I do now, but in a more controlled way. So
just going to that as well, that's interesting because so many people say, they're so quick to diagnose things like autism and ADHD. There was none of that when we was at school. Saying doctors are essentially just any sort of naughty behaviour, ADHD, or any sort of, I'm going to use abnormal in quotations there, behaviour, autism. They're quite quick to come with that sort of diagnosis, where the reality is, someone like yourself, you've been suffering with ADHD for 49 years, and you only got that diagnosis, 2 years ago, a year ago?
No, about 7 months ago.
Really? What brought that on?
Well, the 12 steps fix a lot of things, like 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous.
Yeah.
But my sponsor says, look, I'm not a medical expert. If you think you need help, go find help. Yeah. And I always knew something was wrong. I knew that it wasn't just addiction. Yeah. I always knew something was wrong. And so I go to an adult learning thing. I don't take the Ritalin or the drugs. I just learn coping strategies. Yeah. But and it all made sense. When I'm getting expert advice, expert help now. Everything just made. I'd walked about a decade and my shoelaces undone. But then I don't like completing now. Okay. So I'll be doing one thing. You may have noticed, and then I'll think, no. I tell you what, I'll go do that, and then halfway between. Maybe they'll just say, don't do any of them. Yeah. But I'm learning to cope with that.
Yeah. So do you think that, obviously not having this diagnosis for ADHD, do you think a big part of using substances all this year has been, I suppose, escapism, a coping strategy? Do you think the two have gone hand in hand at all, and you just haven't realised it?
Yeah, 100%. Because like I said, I always knew there was an underlying issue.
Yeah.
And I think with me, I smoked heroin because I wanted intravenous.
Yeah.
I smoked it, but I was hyperactive. So every addict would be gouching and I'd be like, blah, 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 for like 8 hours at a time.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'd just get a fast heart rate.
Yeah.
The opposite effect for ADHD.
Yeah. That's interesting. So you went from gas and glue to cannabis at the age of like 9, 10. Where did you go from there?
I didn't go to school, but I went to school and just a bit later on, 14, 15, started nightclubbing at an early age and got introduced to Class A's, cocaine, ecstasy.
Yeah. And was there any sort of hesitation about using them substances, or do you think because you'd already been using cannabis and it was quite quick to just like, I can have that?
Yeah, there was a saying in them days, there's always one, but I'm going to.
Yeah.
So I'd just do more than anybody else.
Okay. For what reason? Was it kind of like one-upmanship or?
No, that's just the way it was. I couldn't control it.
Yeah. So I've heard, especially in these sort of 80s and 90s when, I suppose Class A's and party drugs was quite commonly used. I've heard people say like they realised they had a problem when everyone else was coming on a come down.
Yeah.
Or the night was sort of finishing and they wanted to continue using substances. Yeah. Would you say that was sort of the story for yourself? Or?
Yeah, most definitely. I'd never want the party to end.
Yeah.
I'd be one of those who, come on, we'll go to an all-nighter, come on, we'll go to a cafe in the morning. So I didn't want the party to end.
What point did you realise that was a problem?
But do you know what? I've always kind of known that everything was a problem. I kind of used it against my will most of my life.
Yeah.
But I didn't know a way out.
That's interesting. Tell me a little bit more about that, though. Using against your will. Because for some people, I think there's a big sort of misunderstanding of drug use where people think, you know what? If you want to stop using drugs, just stop using drugs. Yeah. If you want to stop drinking, just stop drinking. Yeah. Obviously, we know there's a lot of danger, and there's that in itself could be quite dangerous. But why was that for you? Then why didn't? If somebody said to you, "Why don't you just stop?" What was going through your head when people would maybe ask that sort of question of you?
I'd feel resentful because I'd feel as though they didn't know what I was going through. Like especially with family and friends, I'd feel a lot of resentment. I'd feel as though I'd say you can't stop smoking, and that's a bit too old. Yeah, so I just feel a lot of resentment.
The smoking thing is something I don't find interesting as a side note because obviously working in substance misuse services ourselves, we're not there to tell people don't use drugs. Naturally, we're there to give harm reduction advice, and for those that want recovery, aim for recovery. But there is an element of, I suppose, hypocrisy when those conversations are going on, and then the amount of staff that stood at the back of the building, are fagging it away, sort of thing. So, in terms of you say about creating resentment and stuff, like, how was that? At what point did your substance misuse start to have an impact on your family as well? You just spoke briefly about your parents then, I think.
Well, I moved to, I got parole from Morelands Prison in 1989 to go live with my mother and stepfather in East London. And I lived there about just over 9.5 years. I had real good jobs, but I smoked cannabis all the way through. So, but I always knew that I was inhibited all the time from smoking weed, but I just couldn't stop.
Yeah.
And then I moved back to Hull in 1998. From London, and then everybody I knew, they had their own businesses. I don't like the word functioning addicts, it's not a thing for me, because addiction's internal for me. They all did heroin, but they all had real nice jobs, so it was quite attractive, And as soon as I did it, I had that hyperactive feel-good effect.
So that was the first time you used heroin around 98?
I was about 27, 28. I was quite old, really.
Yeah, well, considering you started using other substances at such an early age, you might have thought that escalation to heroin would have come much younger.
Yeah.
How much, you said about prison then, what was the circumstances around
that? Which one?
Well, we'll tell you what, the first time, the first time you went to prison.
I first went to prison when I was 15. I was a child in adult prison.
Okay.
But I had loads of fear on going in. But when I went in, there was 4 or 5 of my classmates.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from the school on the wing, selling all the drugs. So I felt at home.
Yeah.
It was an holiday camp.
Yeah.
And it was a good laugh.
It's bizarre that is the sort of feelings of going to prison, though. That it felt like more of a holiday. Because that happens a lot, doesn't it, with people? People get, there's a word for it.
Institutionalised.
Institutionalised, yeah. Where people are just in and out of prison all the time, but feel more comfort in prison. Can you relate to that? As to why people might have that then?
Yeah, I can do. But that wasn't my story. But I can relate to it because I've seen it. But I can't relate to it personally because I just wanted out every day. But I tell myself I want using drugs every day for nearly 18 months of being in there. And then get a taxi from the gate to go get whatever drug I was on at the time.
Why do you think that was then? Because obviously it wasn't a physical dependency, was it, or anything? But the second you got out of prison, you wanted to use substances.
Yeah, just, I
Because you should, you could do it, can't you? Obviously, if that to be abstinent for that long, for 18 months, did you say?
Yeah, and I didn't do drugs in jail. I was well against it.
Exactly, yeah. So what was the reason to just go and do it the second you got out then?
You know what? Like thinking back, in prison I was always busy, and then as soon as I'm left to my own devices, I just had to change the way I feel because I couldn't sit in self.
Okay, yeah.
That's been my problem.
Yeah,
sitting in self.
Tell me what you mean by sitting in self, and so
not knowing the person who I am and having all these false coping mechanisms I'd created. Yeah, going back to my childhood. Yeah. Which I found out in the 12 steps. I found out a lot about that trauma, what's triggered me to use. I'm one of 4 siblings, 2 brothers and a sister. We all smoked cannabis when I was younger, but I'm the only one who carried it on. And we all had similar experiences. Because my mum and dad divorced when I was 4 or 5. My dad brought 4 of us, which was real unusual in them days, 1970s.
Yeah. But normally the mum that brings it up, I suppose, yeah. And
I was the one who carried it on, but I remember sat at the top of the stairs, crying my eyes out and watching my mum leave with the bags, and I didn't think I'd seen her for 5 years. So I'd created all these things in my head, but I did because she's told me recently. Yeah. And now I've learned that she had loads of mental health problems, what was going on, because I resented her. Yeah. All my life.
Well, you wouldn't have understood, would you, I suppose?
But even in later life. Yeah. I still had the resentment, but although I loved her today, I didn't understand like her.
So was that, you talked a little bit about trauma then, obviously, not losing your mum in the sense of her, passing away or anything, but losing your mum as a child is a big part of your life, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Was that the trauma that you think set you off then?
Yeah, it's the trauma, yeah.
And you feel that 100%, that's why
Yeah, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
For me, yeah.
How did your dad cope with you? Obviously, because 9, 10 using substances then, was he aware of it?
Not really. I was out of control. Yeah. There's not a lot they could have done. Yeah. Like school wouldn't expel me, but I wanted expelling.
And a different time, your dad wouldn't have known about things like ADHD.
No.
To him, you might have just been a little shit sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? And then that's when they can't, I suppose, like, what can you do? What was that relationship like with your dad then growing up?
Beautiful.
Yeah?
He was a bookmaker.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And but it turned out he was an addict.
Your dad?
Yeah, a gambling addict.
Ah, interesting.
An addict all the same for me. So sometimes we'd have tons of money because he was a bookmaker. Yeah. Sometimes, but do you know what? Every Christmas we had everything we'd ever wanted, Yeah. He did the best he could. Yeah. As I've learned. Yeah. So there was a resentment there.
Why did you resent your dad?
This is part of my false belief system I created. Yeah. One of the things was when we didn't have money.
Okay, yeah.
But it wasn't as long as what I thought it was. Yeah. It's just my experience of it.
Why do you think that time is like that in your head? Because it sounds like, people being away for longer. You've got this idea that people are away longer than you thought there was. And why do you think that is? Do you think that's usually using substances or?
Well, even before that, I've always tried to escape out of self by whether it being what we used to do. We used to have community bonfires as a kid. We used to collect wood, and I used to be obsessed about that between the age of 4 and 9. Yeah, because we used to have a telegraph pole as the central thing. There was massive community things, and I'd sneak out my room every night at 2 a.m. just to go check on all the wood and mix. And we've got more wood than the next street. So I'd be really obsessive at
competitive almost as well.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, escaping self. That's.
And you used to go and do that at like 2 a.m. sort of thing.
Yeah, and I was just, none of the others was. I was just, we've got this much wood and we've got more wood than them. And,
Why do you think that was even important?
Well, I don't know, the obsessive nature, and I was obsessive.
So it's just almost like a byproduct of other sort of feelings.
Because I didn't know what that was. So I'm not in denial, but I don't understand it.
Yeah. So I was talking about, obviously you mentioned prison. I asked you what that was like. You said which time. Have you been in and out of prison a lot?
Yeah. Well, it's always been a laugh.
Yeah.
I've been in, was in my DPS. I got locked up for theft of 18,000 Valium from a vets.
Wow. Was that to use personally, sort of thing, or was it to deal?
Well, put it this way, I lost 3 months of my life.
Okay, yeah.
And what I did is I was going out with a girl and she said, oh yeah, they're getting a Valium delivered today.
Yeah.
And that was just like, boom, like an hand grenade going off in my head. Because that Diazepam was always my favourite drug.
Yeah. What was you primarily getting into trouble for then when you was getting in trouble? Was it normally theft?
I was addicted to the cash.
Okay.
You know, like finding a cash tin in an office.
Yeah.
Was such a thrill.
Yeah.
As good as any drug.
Yeah.
You know,
it almost. I'm piecing things together here. So you talked about that sort of obsessive nature you had. People having like that wood and things like that. This girl mentions that there's Valium there, and that's it. That's all you can think about. The hand grenade going off in your head. Do you think there's correlation between that obsessive nature and you committing these thefts?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Yeah. Just a thrill. It was just a massive thrill.
Yeah. So it wasn't even. Was there times when you didn't even need what you were stealing, and it was just the thrill of stealing?
No.
Okay. So everything you stole, it was because you actually wanted it then.
Yeah. Even when I just smoked cannabis, I'm saying just, but even when I just smoked cannabis. Would beg a lot of local schools when I was kids, multiple times.
So in terms of like a moral compass for me, like I would know, okay, I can't do that, that's wrong. Did you feel like you had a moral compass, or was you just almost void of that?
I didn't care.
No,
I was a sociopath.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So
but then I would care.
Yeah.
You know, then after I'd done it and spent the money, I would think, oh shit, you shouldn't have done that. So maybe I had a moral thing after the fact.
Yeah, so the morals, I suppose the moral dilemma wouldn't come until after the act had already happened. So lots of crime being committed. At what point at what age was you committing crime just to fund a drug habit? Or did that ever happen?
Yeah, I was about 29.
So was that after when you just started after the opiates?
Yeah, that was 1999.
Yeah.
When I got 2 year, 8 months, I think.
So it had gone from kind of doing it for fun to now doing it because...
but it was always money involved.
Yeah. But now you need to.
Yeah.
Now you need to. I get that. That's interesting. And how long was you addicted to opiates for then?
Until from 1998 to 2020.
Oh, 22 years then. That's a long time. Tell us a little bit about what the treatment system's been like for you over that time then. Like, how come it took so long to get recovery? What is the difference I'll tell you what, not the difference of what's going on in self right now, but is there a difference in the way services have been delivered to people with opiate addictions that made you think, right, this time I can do it?
Yeah, I think most definitely. I think it's shift. I think when I first came about, I think it was almost set as a moral deficiency.
Okay.
You know, it used to be called a crime reduction initiative for one.
It was,
now it's changed grow live. I think the emphasis has shifted.
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily ready, but I think, you know, and I found that this time when I was willing to help myself, I got more help. You know, the services have definitely changed. There's more emphasis on the user. I used to think there was more emphasis on the staff than what there was the users, you know.
Yeah.
You know, like their clinical supervision, how they are, you know what I mean?
I get that. And I'm glad you mentioned that about sort of moving from crime reduction initiatives to change, grow, live, because I think that's quite an important point in the sense of substance misuse and heroin addiction primarily was always seen as a criminal problem. And I think it's one of the things where you get told you are one thing's enough, you're going to believe it. And I think I imagine every letter you got through the door that said crime reduction initiative on it just kind of reaffirmed that belief of I am a criminal. And then you're absolutely right in terms of moving to change, grow, live, because what we saw was that more people was needing help for substances that weren't involved in the criminal justice system.
Yeah, definitely.
When I first started working there, we was working with people under the alcohol treatment requirements and the drug rehabilitation requirements, and that's all we was doing. Whereas to see it be seen as much more of a community issue, I suppose, is much more important, I guess, now. So what was the change in, we spoke a little bit then about the changes in self, changes in services. Yeah. What was the change in self? Was there a rock bottom moment for you where you was like, right, fuck, I need to get myself sorted out now?
Yeah. We have a saying in Narcotics Anonymous, the gift of desperation. Yeah. Because, you know what it was? It was people in Forward Trust and Change Go Live downstairs challenging my beliefs. Yeah. You know, but in a way, what one, obviously...
You didn't feel attacked?
Yeah.
Sort of thing, yeah.
Well, I did sometimes. I felt a blow, but yeah. And there was one instance where a Forward Trust worker, because I was in total denial for me, you know, I was 8 stone. There's a picture of me in Reno if you haven't seen it.
I might have.
You know, what I hid. And,
I might not then if you hid it.
And... yeah, I was just in a little bit of denial, you know. I could be in the service. This is one of my big things. I could go in the services, and the very definition of being there is saying, please help me, but I couldn't say, please help me. So when they say, you all right? Yeah, everything's yes. Yeah. You know, because I dressed well and I thought I could add it.
Yeah. I think that's just, there's a big part of that which is just a cultural thing of being a man.
Yeah.
How often people get asked, are you all right? And we just respond with, I'm fine. And a lot of the times, we're not fine. And I think sometimes all it takes is when someone asks how you are and you say I'm fine and they go, yeah, but are you fine? And you go, and then you might open up a little bit more, don't you?
Yeah.
So what was you talk about the gift of desperation then. So was there a specific moment where you fought it? Because I think what I want to talk about is them rock bottom moments. Do you know, we talk about people having the legs amputated and still continuing to use substances. Yeah. And that's not their rock bottom moment. But then other people, and again, I've shared this one before, forgetting to pick your kids up from school and thinking, right, I've got to sort myself out. Was there anything there, though, you just thought, right, now's the time to change?
Yeah, I think there's a combination of things. I was living in a shithole, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
A flat where I just tidied up a 4 square metre thing and kicked everything underneath the couch.
Yeah.
My relationships with my family had become strained. I'd lost a relatively long-term girlfriend. I knew if I got caught, like doing certain things, I'd get a lot of jail. Just a combination, like a perfect storm. Yeah. And I was getting old. I was getting old.
Yeah. That's the one thing that I think is interesting, because for heroin users, specifically, intravenous or not, they're an ageing population.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that we get coming through the door, you rarely get 20-year-olds coming through the door with a heroin addiction. It's often people in like the late 30s, 40s, 50s sort of thing that we're working with. So I do think there must be a time when you get to a point where you're just sick of going to the pharmacy every day, sick of using substances every day, sick of chasing the substances every day. And all the drama that must come with being in that circle.
Yeah. Drama. Yeah, big drama.
Yeah. So tell me about Renew then. When you had those moments of change, you talked a little bit about some of the groups you was running with the Forward Trust.
Yeah, and
being challenged. What was that?
And like? To Renew in general, like credit, the first people to really show faith in me, because I've been to college a couple of times and done counselling studies, but I was just in the midst of things. But the first people to like Kerry, am I allowed to say names?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Like Kerry Shaw, Leon Ghazi, Rachel Conqueror.
Yeah.
First people to really show faith in me, Lily May.
Yeah.
You know, just let me know that, I am worth something,
And it kind of takes us to the whole point of this podcast, and the mantra of us as Change Go Live is believing in people. I think that's what we've got to do. And I think if you're someone who doesn't believe people can change, you're working in the wrong job. Because no matter where people are on this journey to recovery, it could be just taking those first few steps. It could be complete ambivalence to ever wanting to change. Still believing at some point they will change, because we've seen it. We've seen the visual recovery. Someone like yourself who's been using substances for 22 years, it might have taken 22 years, but it still happened.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I think that's the big part of it. When did you get introduced to the fellowship then?
That was through stepping stones upstairs, Forward Trust. And then they had a meeting there on a Friday, which we're going to be opening again, because that's what we call a frontline. So it was going there on a Friday afternoon with other members of that group who was part of that meeting. Walked in my first meeting in the day rehab in the kitchen. And there's people I've known many years, sat there cleaned, and just different people. And I was like, but I still thought it was full of shit. But then that was my stuff. But then I just, as a saying, keep coming back. And I just started coming back, And then you see they're not full of shit. My friend I've known about 40 years, I said to him, when do you all go drinking at weekend? And he went, oh, no, I don't drink. I thought it was weird, But then I just started listening. So I was on methadone. So I felt a little bit less than, at first.
One of the things that I think is important that for a lot of people is having that first mutual aid meeting at Renew, because there's this crossover of a comfort blanket. It's an environment that you're familiar with. And it's happened for a lot of people. I think they've gone to the first meeting at Renew, and I'm glad you've said it's going to be coming back as well, on the Friday afternoon, because the amount of interest that piques in other people where they're looking in, like what's going on in there. Because the fellowship, the one thing that I love about is that brotherhood. And you don't get that with, I suppose, with anything else, do you? Do you know, when a bunch of strangers can just come together, have one thing in common, this brotherhood is created from it, I think is incredible. How important was that to you? When actually going back a little bit,
shivers.
Yeah, well, tell me about what was it like when you was first welcomed into the fold? Then, like, tell me about your first meeting. Then, so you said obviously you thought people were full of shit.
Yeah, well, that was my stuff.
Yeah, of course. That's your stuff.
So it was things like newcomers, people in the first 90 days, or if you're on medication, you can't talk till 15 minutes at the end. So I was concentrating on the differences and not similarities as I learn. And then my sponsor now, who I've known about 35 years, is nearly 20 years clean. One of my first meetings, he put his arm around me and said, one day you could be like that. And someone walked in, I felt really fucking resentful. Because I thought I am like that, so I was in denial. And then getting the list of numbers at the end of the meeting, and then people ringing me because they want to ring me to see how I am. Not, have you got a tenner? Have you got a lay on? Or, and it really
people actually caring about you, not just using you. Yeah,
that's the beauty of the fellowship. For me, that camaraderie. Someone got a flat recently with it. He came out of rehab from Leeds, and then within 5 days, we decorated his flat, got him everything in it, and it's beautiful. So the 1,500 quid he get, he can save for his family.
That's amazing. That.
That's what the camaraderie, that's what it brings. Forget all the opinions on what you think of addiction. I'm not about you personally. No. I'm not about anybody. That is, I'm glad you went for it, because that is the beauty of Narcotics Anonymous or mutual aid. Yeah.
Where does it come from then? Like, why do you think people that are in there are as supportive as they are?
Because there's a saying, tradition, we keep what we have by giving it away.
I like that.
So we give it from because we want to. Yeah. So it's a big part of NA.
A lot of people might be put off the fellowship and NA and AA because the first step is admitting you are powerless and handing yourself over to a higher power, or in some alliterations, into God. What's your opinion on that?
Well, God's step 2, but step 1 is, as you can see in my story, I was powerless.
Yeah.
But God got off drugs.
Yeah.
You can group of druggers. But what God is, because I had that when I first found out. I'm really glad you brought that up.
Are you a religious person, by the way? Or?
No.
Okay.
I follow something called Spinozism, what I got off Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
It's just my personal connection to the universe.
Tell me about that then while you're on topic. What's Spinozism?
Baruch Spinoza was a Dutch Portuguese. He was a leader of the Enlightenment.
Okay.
When science broke away from the church in the 17th century. And he was a leader of that. So I've always known about Albert Einstein stuff. So that's what he followed. People don't realise that. So I'm still a man of God, but not a God in an omnipresent, supernatural way.
Yeah, okay.
It's my personal connection to the universe.
Do you think a lot of people do that with that step then? Because I think, especially in this day and age, I think God is such a... I mean, there was a time when obviously a blind belief of God. If it was just a blind following of the church. We're a different world now.
Yeah.
Do you think, how much of a barrier do you think that is for people?
Yeah, not even the steps. It's in all the readings at the start of the meeting. God, God, God. So when there's a newcomer now, I will just say, I'll just call it like magic, like my friend does. And I'll just say it's magic, this stuff, But there is power in that room, whether it's a power of suggestion, positive energy, there's power in there, you know what I mean? It's not necessarily God for me.
How would you, if someone said, like, I'd really love to get involved in this sort of, I'd love to get involved in the fellowship, however, I just don't believe in God. How do you get around that? You said a little bit about, like, it's magic. But
I would say, because I've got sponsors who I take from it now, what I would say is I don't know what God is, but it's not me. God's not up there, he's in there. So it's internal. I won't complicate it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what it means to me.
I've heard people say that in terms of higher power doesn't necessarily mean God. Higher power could be your motivation in a way.
That's what it is.
So some people have said, like, my kids are my higher power.
Yeah.
Would you agree? Is that right? Is that along the same lines?
I'd stay responsive away from that.
Yeah.
Because what if you fall out with your higher power, your family?
Okay, yeah.
Everything's a suggestion in a 12-step program.
Yeah.
So, but it's suggested not to have a living thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you can get resentment against a living thing.
Yeah. I get that then. So
it's just so I'm not in my will. An higher power means that I'm in something else's will and not mine.
Okay.
And that I believe in something.
Yeah. I kind of understand it. I get where you're going with it. So in terms of your own recovery then, Darren, like where are you in this step program then?
Well, I'll just quickly run for the 12 steps.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that'd be great for people that don't know what they are.
Yeah. Step 1, I'm powerless, and I'm asking for help. Step 2 is asking for help, humility. Being able to ask for help. Step 3. Is believing in and is making a decision to carry on with it, by connecting to an higher power. Step 4 is a fearless moral inventory of my life. That's the big one.
A lot of people stop there as well. Yeah. I found that I've known so many people who've started a step program and then dropped out on step 4.
Yes, it takes a lot of courage because that's how I found out about my childhood trauma and what led me to do drugs. Yeah. And it's called 4 or the door.
Yeah. That sounds about right as well. Yeah.
People who don't do the 4 and the 5 because you read 4 out into 5. That's people who don't do that, they tend to relapse in the fellowship I'm on about. Yeah.
I've from my experience as well, I've seen that happen because the amount of resentment I think that's brought up, the amount of that self-inventory can be so grueling that rather than it taking them to a positive place, they end up just hating themselves even more. Yeah, then that's when they start using more substances, and it can be complete relapse from step 4. And someone who's not even in addiction or a step 4 or in a step program, I would find that one probably the most difficult is step 4.
That's where my sponsor comes into it.
Yeah.
Being in constant contact with him. And step 5 is reading step 4 out.
Yeah. Tell me about sponsors, just to cut you off there, because when I used to hear sponsor, I used to think like financial sponsors, someone who gives me money to live and things like that. So for someone who doesn't understand what a sponsor is, what is the role and responsibility of a sponsor?
It's somebody who's further in their recovery and understands the 12 steps. Yeah. Who's further in. Yeah. Like mine's just over 19 years.
And the difference between that and someone who is, say, doing a volunteer peer mentor role by ourselves, if you agree to be someone's sponsor, you have to agree to pretty much be accessible 24 hours a day. Is that right?
Yeah. Although my sponsor's so far in recovery, it will put boundaries in.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, you can't ring me after 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah, and if I ring him, he'll be honest.
Is that frowned upon? Or are they allowed to put them? Because I don't know what's the sort of
when you're that far in, like I'm learning to put boundaries in now, like we're setting in all aspects of life. What that is just being honest and being yourself, Because then if you're picking up the phone, you're just people pleasing. Yeah. You're doing it to please them.
And I think your ability to help other people shouldn't hinder your own sort of life and responsibility as well, should it? So I'd agree 100% that them boundaries need to be in place. Sorry, step 5 again. What was that?
That's a reading of the step 4.
Okay, yeah. So they can, like you said, they blend together. And then step 6.
Step 6 is defects of character.
What's that?
For me, I'll explain what it means for me. It would, responding to situations in different ways, and just I run on them false behaviours I'd created, because addiction's behavioural, for me.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And there's a lot of behaviour, and I brought them behaviours into my recovery. So one of my defects was passive-aggressive humour. Yeah. Which is what Kerry and Ellie would probably attest to. Yeah. But what that turned out to be was me feeling inadequate, so I would attack you before you attack me with humour. Yeah. So if I think you're going to say, "You all right, Darren?" I will say something derogatory, but in a jokey way. Yeah, I get that. I think it's like that deflection as well, I guess. Yeah, that's what it is. Well, it is deflection, isn't it? Yeah. And I'm guilty of that. I think I know a lot of people are guilty of that. I think for me, if I think about taking a bit of a sort of invention myself, is just general personal responsibility. Like if my wife comes at me with something like, "Oh, you haven't done this," I was like, "Well, I ain't done that yet, but you haven't done this." Yeah. So there's that instant stop coming at me, stop attacking me sort of thing. Like I almost attack back to deflect my own personal responsibility in a way of negating that, I guess. What about step 7? Step 7 is where we pray and put the action in to remove our defects. Okay. Pray to an higher power of my understanding. Because we can learn about our defects. As I had 11, we can learn about our defects, but if we're not going to put the action in, then what's the point in learning? So step 7 is kind of like what 5 is to 4. Yeah. It's a solution to it. Okay, yeah. So step 7 follows on quite easy, falls on quite simultaneously. Yeah, and I've always been spiritual, you see. I've always known there was something else, So step 7 was quite easy for me. Because a lot of people could be in step 6 for 2 years. So you're in all them bad behaviours you're learning about and not in the solution in step 7, a bit like 4 and 5. Yeah. So basically, I pray to my higher power every morning and night, and I'd pray for them to be removed, But then I'd put the action in, because I've learned about them, to not do them. Yeah. Is your higher power a God then, or in that sense? Or? It's a personal connection to the universe. But this is another thing. Yeah. I'm so open-minded that it could be. Yeah. I used to be agnostic, but I'm not now. I'm just that's what the program's done for me. I'm so open-minded. Yeah. If you say you're into God, then that works for you. Yeah. But I'm just open-minded. Yeah, it could be. Absolutely. I think that's the best way to be in life, though. I don't understand anything. I've got a friend who's a Jehovah's Witness, or was a Jehovah's Witness. He's kind of fallen out with that. And, I mean, I was always open-minded. I went to a couple of his meetings with him, but my rule was, just don't try and push it on me. Yeah. I'll listen to anyone's religion. In fact, I found it all interesting. Hearing about everyone's different religious beliefs, I do have a very much an open mind to it. But as long as you don't push your own belief on me, then I'm fine. I think that's my approach to it. I've got because just before the pandemic started, I was due to come off methadone. Yeah, and I just jumped off. Mm-hmm. But I had all these people around me, Narcotics Anonymous, who I'd ring. Yeah. Because I had to go in every day for clinical supervision, but it was closed. Okay. But now I see the pandemic as a godsend. Cause that's it was that thing where you had to take action, I suppose. Yeah. And I had some spiritual experiences during that month rattle. Because I literally, people say, "Oh no, you can't not go to sleep for a month," but I didn't. I didn't even go to bed. There was no sleep there. So I had some really weird spiritual looking higher power moments. Yeah. Do you think that, just do you think that's part of the ADHD? Do you think that's why? Because if people say, no, you can't do that, do you think that's why you was able to do it? Because of your ADHD? Just to... say that again. What? So in terms of, like, obviously you said people say, oh, you said you didn't sleep for a month. Yeah. And they said it's not possible. Do you think part of your ADHD was to help to make that happen? Yeah, I suppose so, yeah. And just, I was just rattling. Yeah. Withdrawing. Yeah. Off a large amount of methadone. Because I imagine, obviously, a rattle's going to be hard enough as it is, but with ADHD, when you're mentally bouncing from one thing to another as well, then doing that through a rattle, that must have been twice as harder than it. No, that's right. Because once my body started resting, my mind started turning over. Yeah. And they'd like tag each other like a tag team. But the spiritual experiences I had was, I always used to smoke cannabis. sit watching the religious channels and take the piss out of it, you know, to cheer myself up.
Yeah.
But I'm getting shivers, man, my hair's standing up. I put it on one night, and I thought, I hadn't slept, so things were a little bit bizarre. So I thought, I'll tell you what, I'll go in their church and put all them in my living room. So I'm watching them from my telly, and they're still happy in my living room, and I'm sat in the church alone, fucking all upset.
This is part of your hallucinations, was it, or sort of?
Well, yeah, and connection to an higher power.
Yeah.
But other things happened. Like my sponsor at the time, different guy. He bought me a book. He ordered it from America. About a Buddhist 12-step, and it's 1,100 pages from like that. I flicked through it, and it said Darren story, coming off methadone, can't sleep. So just serendipity, things of a fortuitous nature, or higher powers. It's meant. I believe everything that happens for a reason now.
Yeah, that's correct. Because people don't understand that. So a lot of people don't understand that. Have you ever seen Trainspotting?
Yeah.
You know the scene where obviously the baby's like crawling on the roof and stuff like that, off the ceiling. Are they the sort of like, how accurate is that film for someone who's gone through that? When you think about your rattle and your hallucinations, do you think it's a fair representation of what it's actually like? Do you think
not
it's
really?
No.
I won't say I was hallucinating. That thing I did was a quantum mechanics trick, but what caused it was just being the observer and the observed. But yeah, I would say, I suppose it can be like that for some people. I was more just worried about every little thing I'd done, and more in fear of what I'm gonna do. Yeah.
So where was it with the steps then? Was it step 8? Did we say then?
Yeah, step 8 is listing people who I've harmed. Okay. Yeah.
And is it making amends?
Yeah,
as well?
That's 9.
Okay.
So making a list of all the people I've harmed. You know, and step 9 is making amends where possible, where it will injure them or others.
How long will that take for someone who's been using substances for 22 years? Yeah. So that's ongoing, really, isn't it? I guess.
Shall I share one with you? Yeah. Well, the first one I did was on the garden place, because I thought it was like banter at first with Phil. Yeah. But it was bullying as I looked at it, you know, when I looked at it. I looked at myself. And then I sat him down, and I said, I need to talk to you. I need to make an amends. And he said, what for, treating me like a cunt for a year? You know, so I was right. So this stuff does work, because I'd flagged this up. So anyway, I made a beautiful amends, because I bullied him. Yeah. You know, another one was my mum, all the things I did. Yeah. You know, Pacific thing. My stepdad died. She got left a lot of money. She did a big Christmas, and when she was at her neighbour's house on Christmas Day, I had the credit card out of purse and I was scoring. You know, and I haven't told her that because I think it'll injure her. Okay. It's a certain thing.
So is there some things that you don't want to speak about? Because I suppose there's one thing about when you're making amends, there's one thing about making yourself feel better, but would you do that at the cost if what you're doing is going to make somebody else feel worse?
Yeah, that's injure me or them. That's what it says in the step. Okay, yeah. So the thing is with that, but I've told my sponsor and I've told God. Yeah.
So you've said it out loud, but not to the person.
Only with certain extreme. But I'm making a living amends. I'm living with it clean. I've just got a job. And I hadn't had like a job since I was in London 30 odd years ago. So, you know, I'm emptying the dishwasher. Yeah. You know, just daft little things. You know what I mean? Because my mum would be full of flu. Influenza, say 78, and I'd go, you all right, mum, you got 20 quid. Yeah. So I'm making it all about me, but today I'm making it all about her.
I get that, yeah. So what's the next step then?
Step 10, fearless morning. No, that's fucking step 4. I hope this isn't being filmed, it is. Don't watch sponsor. That's where we make a daily inventory of our lives. Okay. So there's 36 questions. You know, have I harmed anybody today? Have I done anything unspiritual? Yeah. You know,
just to do that every day then?
No, the idea is to do, what my sponsor said, do the 36 questions for a month and then live it.
And then live it,
Yeah, like all the steps, you know.
Yeah, if you do that every day, you're probably going to get
I'll give you an instance about that. A service user, not going to mention her name, I brought a subject up because we know each other from the past, and then when I realised what I'd done, I shut her down, and I could see it upset her. And then she shared it with another peer mentor, but I'd already realised my mistake.
Yeah.
And I seen her a couple of days later, and I just said, look, can I have a word? I'd just like to make an amends because... and then she said, oh, no, I did this, I did that. I said, no, you did nothing.
Yeah.
It was all me.
Personal responsibility.
Yeah, and she didn't do anything. I started the conversation, and then I shut it down.
Yeah.
But she'd been in that for a couple of days, so the process does work.
Yeah, I get that. And then step 11?
Yeah, that's reaffirming my connection to my power, to God, through meditation and prayer.
Yeah. And then is the 12th step to share the message?
Yeah. Okay. That's to spread the message. Keep what we have by giving it away.
Yeah, I like that. And have you done the full 12 steps?
Yeah, I've done the full 12, yeah.
Do you have to... Someone told me before, once you've done the full 12 steps, you start again? Is that a thing?
No. If you want to, I'm starting on the traditions now.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, because I never understood and that's what the foundation of what it's built on.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. That's all right.
But I take over through, I take 2 people through the process now.
Yeah. What I do want to finalise on, Darren, is just a series of 10 random questions. They have nothing to do with what we've been talking about just now. They're just 10 random questions, and just answer them as honestly as you can. So the first question, Darren, what is your favourite word?
My favourite word is something I am sometimes, facetious.
Facetious, I like that.
Yeah.
What's your least favourite word?
My least favourite word is probably America.
For what reason? Everything America stands for, or what it represents? You're just not a fan of Americans. Tell me something that excites you.
Love.
Tell me something that doesn't excite you.
Love.
Love doesn't excite you, and it doesn't excite you.
There's a facetious nature.
There we go.
Something that doesn't excite me. Sadness.
Sadness. That's good, yeah. I get that. I thought you were going to say love and hate.
Same thing, isn't it?
Exactly. What sound or noise do you love?
I love the didgeridoo.
The didgeridoo. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I went to Australia in 2007, and sometimes I just can't get out of my head. That's all I can hear.
Yeah.
Didgeridoo.
It does funny things to our brains, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like that. It's the vibration of it, isn't it?
Yeah.
The sound. It's not just obviously all sound is vibration, but there's something about it where you almost feel the vibration with a didgeridoo.
We all have a resonant frequency.
Yeah. Well, there we are. What sound or noise do you hate?
Probably take that.
The band.
Yeah. Well, it's a sound, isn't it? It's like a.
not a fan of Gary Barlow. What is your favourite curse word?
The C word.
Is there any other profession that you'd like to attempt? What is your dream job, essentially? If not what you're doing now.
Well, I'll digress slightly, but quickly.
Go on.
When I lived in London, I used to say to this old character next door, Steve, who was about 70, I used to say, I'm qualified, and he used to say, what, qualified wanker? You know, so he just nailed me there and then, you know, because I was a wanker most of my life.
Yeah, nice.
But, yeah, I'd be a qualified institutionalised prisoner, probably.
Yeah. Explain that to me.
I'd probably be in prison.
That'd be your profession.
Well, that's where I was headed.
Okay, tell you what, not where
Yeah,
you're headed. What is your dream job? I'm talking like astronaut, sort of F1 racer, I don't know, whatever. If you could do anything in the world, and you didn't need to be qualified for it, well, obviously you need to be qualified for it, but right now I can say, right, you're starting your dream job tomorrow, boom, what would it be?
Well, my dream job all the way through my life is I'd like to be something like a particle physicist or something to do with mathematics, but I think I'm in my dream job.
Good. That's nice to hear. I like to hear that.
Wear that, Diane.
Yeah. What profession would you not like to do?
Ooh.
Worst job imaginable. What would be the worst thing you could do?
I think a politician.
Yeah. I think you'd be good at it.
Oh, you're saying I'm disingenuous?
Quite the opposite after what we've spoken to today. And last question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Nothing. Just accept.
Just acceptance.
Yeah.
I like that. Just the gates open and silence. Thank you very much for your time, Darren. Much appreciate you coming in today. And it's been wonderful talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
How was that?
All right.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
And if you enjoyed this episode of the Believe in People podcast, don't forget to check out our other episodes and hit that subscribe button.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok. Our name is CGL Hull. That's CGLHULL. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon and Google Music. So please like and subscribe to receive regular updates. You can also search for Believe in People podcast on your favourite listening device, and if you could leave us a review, that will really help us with getting our message out there and rising up the daily podcast charts.